Let's be real, 2020 has been a year, but it's also given us some memorable, memeable, and momentous celebrity and pop culture moments this year. A lot of them that brought us joy. I'm Denny Directo, and I am joined by our very own Ash Crossan and Melicia Johnson. Ladies, what a year we've had, but let's talk about the happier times. Ash, why don't you kick things off for us? What are some of your favorite celebrity pop culture moments that brought you joy this year?
I want to do the games that kind of brought us together. So first we had Animal Crossing, which launched on March 20th. That was kind of like the beginning of the pandemic. And it quickly became like the biggest game in the world, the first console game to reach 5 million digital sales in a month. Everybody was playing it, and a lot of the credit to that high sales was due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But it was like, I mean, y'all remember it was like hard to get a Switch. I don't even know if you can still get one. Everyone was playing it. Celebrities were playing it. There was even like talk shows made around this game. There's a writer named Gary Whitta who wrote Star Wars Rogue One, a good screenwriter, but he made like a talk show where he would have celebrities come on in the Animal Crossing game and he would interview them. And Brie Larson was on it, and just everyone was playing it. Everyone, it was like the first way that we could all visit each other
Right.
virtually.
I mean, it really
and
was
it,
ahead of its time in a lot of ways, wasn't it?
yes, and it was a lot like much
True.
preferred to a Zoom happy hour.
Yeah.
Here's my question for you though. Do you think Animal Crossing would have popped off as much as it did if we weren't in the middle of a global pandemic? Like, was it still fun? Was it fun for you to play?
I think yes, I think the people that grew up with that game were like really excited for the new version to come out, but I think it the surge was because of the pandemic. I mean, I had people like texting me, slacking me, and being like, "What is Animal Crossing? Should I get this? Should I get into this? Can I beat Tom Nook?" And I'm like, "Yes, because it's the only way we can hang out right now, and you can have pink hair if you want."
It's so
I never
interesting.
got
This
it.
is my first time, honestly, hearing about Animal Crossing. I must be out of the loop, but this is new to me. This is definitely something I'm learning.
I wouldn't put it past someone out there in Hollywood writing this Animal Crossing script right now. Like, yeah, it's a popular video game, but I'm just predicting that we will get a series or maybe even a movie, especially because they don't need to hire real actors, so they could do it from home while we're all
True.
still on lockdown. In the meantime, Ash, what was another positive celeb moment in your world?
And then my other feel good story, I just want to mention because I'm in the gaming mode, and I played a lot of Tony Hawk because they remastered it, whatever.
Right.
The feel good story with Tony Hawk that went around on TikTok when the FedEx driver,
Uh,
a kid gave him a skateboard and said, "Get this to Tony Hawk," and the FedEx driver was like, "Okay, I'll do my best." Doesn't no address, nothing like that. And so he took it to TikTok to try to get it to Tony Hawk. And not only did that happen, Tony Hawk sent him a skateboard. The young kid, it was a 6-year-old fan named Cooper, and he sent him a skateboard, and it was just so
oh,
heartwarming because I love hearing that celebrities like this are cool.
I was honored that Cooper would be so inspired by me that he'd want me to have his old skateboard.
I also feel like, Tony Hawk, he's probably thinking about his own kids too. And
Mhm.
it's been like a rough time for a lot of people, especially all those kids who have literally been cut off from their friends. They are stuck at home all the time. And so to like also, I don't know, share a little joy and make them a little happy by just saying what's up and then also sending them a board. I mean, you can't beat
Yeah.
it.
And shout out to the FedEx driver because he did not have to go through what he did to get that news out there. He made a TikTok specifically for Cooper to get Tony Hawk's attention. So shout out to him as well.
I love it.
Those
All
like
right,
essential
Malicia.
workers just doing it.
Right.
I know, right? They're doing the Lord's work, literally.
Really.
Okay, so Alicia, how do you pick? How do you narrow in on a celebrity or
Hmm.
pop culture moment that made you happy, that just made you smile this year?
I just think about what I can recall the quickest. And one of those moments is the rise of the Cuomo brothers in pop culture. I mean,
Yes.
they took over, especially around June when Andrew Cuomo, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, was doing the press conferences every day. And of course, we see Chris on CNN every night. They literally stole America's heart. And the new term was created. Cuomosexual, and there's a few
Okay.
people who identify as Cuomosexual, including Jada Pinkett Smith and Chelsea Handler, and myself. I mean, it was so refreshing. It was just really refreshing to see Andrew and Chris step up to the plate this year as sincere leaders during this pandemic. That plus their attractiveness and straight talk demeanor. just turned a lot of people into what we see now as Cuomosexuals. And there was merchandise everywhere. The fascination with them just continued to grow. And I just look at them as glimmers of light in this darkness because we would go to them for news, right? And half of the time the news was really bad. But at the same time, we walked away with moments that just reminded us how important family is. I mean, these are brothers, right? And they never shied away from picking on each other as brothers either, even in the midst of those hard conversations. So it was just really refreshing to see this. Plus, their dad is also the former New York governor, Mario Cuomo. So he passed away, but I'm sure he would be so proud of the way his sons handled this pandemic this year.
I'm not gonna
They're
lie.
daddies.
I was just about to say
They
that.
are.
That is zaddy status. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I followed Chris on Instagram years ago because you know what? He looks good with his shirt off. He shares a lot of shirtless Instagram posts. But then fast forward to this year. I mean, you talk about them stepping up to the plate, Milicia, and it's true. I mean, Chris himself actually tested positive for COVID-19
Yes.
earlier during the pandemic, and still actually broadcast on CNN from the basement, from his basement where he was quarantining from his family. But then when you throw in his brother too, who of course is trying to lead the state of New York through this pandemic, when you get
Yes.
them together on screen for those interviews, those were some of the best and most authentic cable news moments during this whole scary time. I was here for it. If you guys had to pick, who would you pick? Andrew Cuomo or Chris Cuomo?
Andrew. I
Andrew.
was quick with that one.
Andrew.
Justice for
And
Chris Cuomo. I know he's a happily married man, but you know what?
yeah.
If I had to choose, my vote would go to Chris.
It's the way that Andrew came in and just felt like a hero to us all. We wanted him to run for president. I didn't even know if that was possible, but he was such a breath of fresh air and he felt like security during a time that was just so, everything was up in the air.
Mhm. All right, Mel. So, what was another celebrity, or who was another celebrity that really did it for you this year?
Okay, Tyler Perry. You know, this has been a tough time financially for a lot of people, and it's really inspiring to see those who have the funds use this time to give back. So, Tyler Perry, this year, he continued to wow me with not only how much he gives to others, but the way he chooses to do it. During this pandemic, he left a $21,000 tip to help struggling workers at an Atlanta restaurant, which equaled out to about $500 for each of the 42 employees. And I mean, that could help out with rent. That's groceries for a month. That does a lot. And speaking of groceries, he also bought groceries for elderly customers at 73 grocery stores in Atlanta and his hometown of New Orleans, which was not only great for the customers, in my opinion, but also great for the employees as well, because they were the ones able to tell these customers the great news that their groceries today are free. And the bright spot in this is that it just speaks to Tyler Perry's character, is that no one knew it was actually Tyler giving these groceries away. They referred to him as an angel of Atlanta, and that just speaks to who he is as a person when it
Mhm.
comes to giving. It eventually came out that it was him, of course, but at first he didn't want anyone to necessarily know. And then fast forward to Thanksgiving, which we just experienced, he opened up Tyler Perry Studios for 4 hours to feed 5,000 families with a combination of food boxes and gift cards. People were lined up in their cars all the way onto the expressway. People slept in their cars. I mean, it was beyond necessary. And as I mentioned, he just stepped up to the plate. And these are only a few acts of Tyler's generosity that we know of. I'm sure there are plenty more that, we don't know about. That's something me and you, Denny, we talked about before. He is one of the biggest rags to riches stories the entertainment world has ever seen. And he has not lost sight of where he's come from. And I think because he knows the struggle so much, he knows what people need who are struggling. And he just never fails. He doesn't. He always comes through with more than enough.
Well, someone who gave us more than enough moments this past year, Brad Pitt. And let me remind y'all, Brad Pitt was the king of award season, and this was before things really took a turn with this pandemic. People forget that literally he was collecting every trophy imaginable up into the Oscars for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood earlier this year. But of course, it was his backstage moment with Jennifer Aniston at the SAG Awards that not only did it happen in 2020, it set the internet on fire. Why was this such a big deal? Well, this was the first time the two had been photographed together since their divorce in 2005. I feel like we had been waiting for an on-camera reunion like this for so long. And then look at this. It's the hand holding for me.
Yes,
It's the physical
yes.
contact for me. What do you remember about this reunion?
No, for me, it's the body language. Like the body language, a picture is worth 1,000 words to me. This is like Brad being like, "Don't go. What have I done?"
Oh, it's iconic.
It's iconic. And I just love seeing exes that can be friends. I mean, I want them to
Oh,
be
for
more. I'm
sure.
not gonna lie, but yeah.
I think you're so sexy. Will you come to me?
Do
For
you?
sure. I loved it because this was a big night for Jen. She was a big winner at the SAG Awards. So for your ex to be there and to also just show you love at the same time, it's just one of those moments for me. I guess I'm being petty Betty right now, but just hey, you see me winning, you just see me glowing up. I mean, Brad, he also had a great year as well, but just that moment, putting both of them together in that space, it
Yeah.
meant a lot for fans, and I think that speaks to just how influential they were as a couple.
Okay, but also it meant a lot to famous people too, famous fans as well. I mean, celebs like
True.
Mindy Kaling, Courtney Cox, they were losing their ish over this too. But I think Jamie Lynn Spears said it best. She said at the time, "We will be telling our grandkids about this," and it's true. Like my brain went when I saw that.
This year has taught us what's really important and just show love when there's love needed to be shown.
Brad and Jen did that twice this year because not only did we get that reunion backstage at the SAG Awards, you'll remember they also had a steamy little table read for the Fast Times at Ridgemont High table read that they did for charity. I
Right.
mean, look at, speaking of body language. I mean, they were playing characters and reading from a script, but man, it just gave us such like this moment right here. I live for it. Just soak that in for a little bit.
Relevant.
But
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, the other celebrity moment that really brought me some joy this year, and this was like I want to say the peak of lockdown at the beginning of quarantine for us. It's Chrissy Teigen going to great lengths to get some romaine lettuce because everyone was going to the grocery store, things were flying off the shelves. Chrissy needed some lettuce, and she was willing to trade someone for her homemade banana bread. And it all started with that tweet right there, you guys, which got the attention of YouTuber Chris Clemens. He responded to her saying, with a photo, "I have 3 Studio City," holding up a sealed bag of like fresh romaine lettuce. The best part was the actual trade-off. Take a look.
Yes.
The deal is about to go down. Banana bread, 2 pieces of pie, a bottle of wine, all for 3 romaine lettuces. It's about to go down. This is how I think that it's gonna happen. This is good aim. Okay, send it back. Send it back. Okay, this looks great.
Chrissy, she was just like us in that moment. But Ash, Malicia, thank you guys so much for your amazing picks.